Hello students, in this video I'm going to be talking about your literature story that you have been reading already, hopefully, and that you're going to be continuing to read this week. It is The Golden Fleece. It's on page 348 in your literature book. Okay, so you might want to get that, get your review sheets, maybe get some notebook paper to write some notes down, because I'm not going to read over answers and go over the worksheet with you. I'm really just going to give you an overview of it and kind of talk about why we're studying this particular story. I wanted to just kind of focus on one story for this length of time. That way we're not jumping to a whole bunch of different ones, because it's easier when you just study one story to be able to get a really good understanding of it, to really focus. That way you can get a deeper knowledge and a deeper understanding, and you can actually learn something more rather than studying a bunch of different ones and trying to learn a whole bunch of different things. It's always better to just try to focus on one thing, get it down, rather than focus on a whole bunch of things and try to understand all of it. Okay? So just as you're going through this story, try to focus on these things, okay? The characters and the plot. Okay, we've already talked about, you already know who the main character is, hopefully. It's Jason, the guy named Jason. And this is a very popular story in historical literature. It's a larger book, a larger portion. Once you get to the end of this passage, you'll see that it kind of ends abruptly, and you're probably wondering, well, what happens next? It's because it's an excerpt from a larger piece of work that, again, is very popular and very historical. So Jason, and he is going on a journey to defeat the King Peleus, because he did his dad wrong, it says, for the wrongdoing of his dear father and everything. I don't want to get too far ahead, but just let me explain that it's important to understand the characters and the plot in a story before you can understand these deeper aspects. That's why, again, I wanted to just focus on this story, so that after we get a good understanding of who we're talking about and what they're doing, you begin to discuss why they're doing it and why did they make the decisions that they made. When we discuss the, like one story a day or just like 4 stories in a week, it's hard to get deeper and understanding the reasoning and the why an author would write about those particular people in that particular story. But this, of course, is the first step. You got to understand who the people are and what they're doing. But the next step is kind of, as you understand who you're talking about and what's happening in the story, what are the main themes? And the theme of a story is the central idea, the main aspect or the main purpose for writing it. I think it was it's probably a term at some point in your book. I don't remember what page it was on. But what is the main theme or the main idea that the author is trying to represent through the characters and the plot? I'm going to talk about that in just a second, so I'm going to keep moving on. And then, of course, the principles that you can learn. All throughout literature, and with my literature worksheets, there's always a question at the end: what lesson can you learn from this story? I think that's probably the most important question. You have to understand the characters, and you have to understand what the story is about to learn a principle. But it's definitely one of the reasons why I think we need to study literature. And it leads to the greater piece of literature, the Bible. Okay, we don't just read the Bible to listen to the fun stories and to gain some entertainment from it. You have to read the Bible to gain wisdom and to gain understanding, to learn something from it so you can apply it to your life. Okay, so that's kind of the 3 things that I want you to kind of keep in your mind as you're progressing in this story. But just here at the very beginning, we've learned about Jason, and another character is Chiron. I think that's how you say his name. I've always said it Chiron. And he's a centaur, and he was kind of like a father figure to him. He taught him things and just trained him up to be a great warrior and noble person and everything. But Jason decides to go off on his own, and it even says in your book on page 349, Jason resolved to seek his fortune in the world without asking Chiron's advice or telling him anything about the matter. He deliberately decides not to seek the counsel or the advice of this guy that's been trying to guide him and help him all through his life, and he just decides to completely disregard him with his decision making. So with that, I want to lead you to the themes that I believe this story kind of gives us. Definitely a major one, and that we'll talk about a whole lot, is the difference between foolishness and wisdom. Okay, who is the characters making wise decisions, or are they making foolish decisions? And right here, we see that Jason makes a very foolish decision in turning away from the guidance and counsel of somebody that could really help him out. And he gets himself into some binds and some situations because he doesn't ask the advice of Chiron. All of that comes from pride, okay? He is making these decisions because he thinks he knows best. He thinks he has the right ideas. He thinks he's arrived, I guess, in his life, and he doesn't need to ask for help or for guidance anymore. And we'll see that a whole lot in the decisions that he makes. He does things very proud, selfishly. Okay? And then we just have the aspect of what is true heroism. What does it mean to be a hero? In this ancient literature, we see Jason, and he's presented as this great hero, this great guy that goes off on this great adventure and defeats these enemies and things like that. But looking at it through the eyes of a Christian, I want us to be able to see, is he a true hero? You can't be a true hero and make prideful, selfish decisions. You can't be a true hero and make foolish decisions. The ultimate true hero was, of course, Jesus Christ, and we always have to look at things through the eyes of Scripture and through Jesus as our true example. But those are kind of the themes that we can look for as we're going through this. So we already see that he's made a foolish decision by going out by himself and not seeking the advice of Chiron. He's going to avenge his father, which you could also say that was foolish, because why is he doing that? He's proud, he's being selfish, but it is heroic, if you can say that. He goes on and he meets an old woman, so he's on his journey. Let me go ahead and skip to page 350. And he goes on a journey and he meets this old woman as he is about to cross this river, this very rushing river kind of thing. And she's all feeble and everything, and she can't get across it by herself. So she asks for him to help her. She wants to get on his back when she's got a peacock or something. Okay, hopefully you read that. That was for last week. And at the bottom of the first column on page 350, I want to read just a little bit. After she asks him to help her, he says, "Good mother," replied Jason, "your business can hardly be so important as the pulling down of a king from his throne. Besides, as you may see for yourself, the river is very boisterous and I should have a chance to stumble." So basically he says, it's not important enough for me to help you. Now, if you read the story from last week and did your work, you know that he did help her, okay? He did actually help her and get her across and everything, and they got across safely, both of them. But his initial instinct, his initial feelings was that you're not important enough for me to help. Foolish, pride, not very heroic, okay? If we think about the stories that we maybe have heard or movies and stuff that we've watched, a hero is somebody that helps, that takes care of the old and feeble people and is there to just be a servant, kind of like Jesus. But Jason, his initial instinct is not to help her because he's too busy. He's got his own agenda. He's trying to accomplish what he wants to do, and he sees her as just getting in the way. And it's interesting, this was on your worksheet as well. Chiron, it says, taught him what the noblest use of strength is. If you are really, truly strong, you will assist the weak. The noblest use of his strength was to assist the weak. Strength is being able to help the weak. And that is, again, something that he was taught but doesn't really apply. So again, we see more of his character in that. He is really applying the stuff that he's learning. That's not very wise. That's foolish as well. Okay, but all of that is because he's proud. He's selfish. He wants to do what he wants to do and not worry about anybody else. And then he loses his sandal in the crossing of the river and everything, and this is pretty important, especially in this next passage that you're going to read, this next few pages that you're going to read, so don't forget that. But that's kind of the end of what you read last week, and again, I'm not going into this week any. I'll probably make another video to continue covering the story. But as you're going forward, as you're continuing to read and learn about Jason and his adventures, I want you to think about this question. What makes a hero? You could probably already write down and give me an answer for that. Okay, I'm not asking you to. If you want to post on the little board, the thread under this video, you can go ahead and tell me that. I'd be interested to read your answers. But what makes a hero? That is a debatable question among many people in many different time periods. Different people think of a hero as something different. But I do believe there is one answer to it. And because Jason is presented as a hero. He's the hero of the story. He's the main character. Okay, he's the protagonist. And so as you're going through it, I want you to think, is he really a hero? Or is he just a guy pretending to be a hero, representing the name of a hero incorrectly? Just think logically and think critically about it. If I can go back to over here, the focus points. We kind of know the character and what he's doing. We know that he's supposed to be representing what a hero is. But is he actually doing that? And what can we learn from his actions to tell us this is right, this is wrong? Again, looking at it from a biblical perspective. Keep reading. I hope this is enjoyable to you. It's a good story. It's got a lot of action and adventure and some crazy stuff that happens. So keep reading, and let me know if you have questions, and comment on the board with anything that you might want to say about it. Okay.